Caitlin Clark shoots 93% from the free throw line. Let that number sit for a second. 93%, that means on her worst night. In her coldest gym, against the most aggressive defense she's ever faced, she almost never misses. She is, statistically, one of the most reliable free throw shooters in the entire sport. So when you hear what happens Saturday night in Brooklyn, you're going to want to rewind it, because in 40 minutes of playoff level basketball in the Commissioner's own tournament against one of the best teams in the WNBA, Caitlin Clark never once shot a free throw, not one. Not a single trip to the line. 0. And here's the part that should make every basketball fan stop scrolling. Indiana led by 12 points in the third quarter. 12, on the road, against a Liberty team that had just won 3 straight, and they still lost by 8. The math on that doesn't work unless something else is going on, and once you pull the full box score, zoom out to what's happened across 2 seasons, and watch how the league office responded. The picture that forms is one that a lot of people in this sport are too nervous to say out loud, so let's say it. Here's what New York did on Saturday night. They shot 36% from the field, 2 of 18 from 3. Those are season lows, the worst shooting performance they'd put together all year. They played without Sabrina Ionescu, their floor general, out with back soreness after just 1 game all season. A shorthanded Liberty team, ice cold from distance, missing their best playmaker, and they won, convincingly, by 8 points. How? Walk through the third quarter, and it becomes clear Indiana led 57-45 with 3.5 minutes left in the period. A 12-point road lead over a desperate home team. Then, New York went on a 10-0 run to close the quarter. And the last point of that run came from a free throw, awarded after Aaliyah Boston picked up a technical foul as the buzzer sounded. Go into the fourth, and it gets worse. Indiana still led 66-62 midway through the period, then New York erupted on a 19-4 run that buried the game. During that run alone, Breanna Stewart shot 11 of 12 from the free throw line. Her 2 free throws with 3 minutes and 36 seconds left put New York ahead for good, and Indiana never recovered. Stewart finished 18 of 21 from the stripe, a career high in makes, and here's the number that reframes the entire night. Stewart's 21 free throw attempts, by herself, were more than Indiana's entire roster combined. The Fever went to the line 15 times total, New York went 40 times. A team that couldn't buy a bucket from the field, playing shorthanded, shooting historically cold, walked out of Brooklyn with a win because one end of the court was completely uneven, and the player at the center of it all, she didn't get a single call. Let's talk about what Clark actually did Saturday night, because the final score doesn't capture it. She started cold, 0 for 5 in the first quarter. No field goal until 3 minutes into the second half. Any other player, that kind of start triggers the panic button. Clark kept working. By the end of the night, she had 10 points, 9 assists, 7 rebounds. 1 shot away from a triple-double on a road loss while being swarmed by double teams all night long. By every measure except the final score, she played a complete basketball game, and then she fouled out. Not immediately, but the foul accumulation was deliberate and it was visible in real time. New York made a tactical decision to attack Clark specifically, to force contact near her, to load her up with foul trouble, and then keep driving directly at her once she was compromised. By the fourth quarter, she had 5 fouls, and the Liberty knew exactly what that meant. Their rookie guard, Pauline Air, didn't even bother hiding it when reporters asked after the game. She said it plainly. They knew Caitlin had 5 fouls, so they kept attacking, kept being aggressive. No spin, no diplomat. The game plan was, she can't touch anyone, so drive at her until something gives. That's basketball. Smart teams attack where the whistle is weakest. Nobody's gonna pretend that's dirty or illegal. New York played the situation they were given, and they played it perfectly. But here's the question that Ayers' quote immediately raises: why was the whistle so weakened in the first place? Because while New York was hunting Clark in foul trouble, Breanna Stewart was doing the exact same thing to Indiana's frontcourt, baiting Boston and the Indiana bigs on every post catch, drawing fouls on a team that was already tight. Boston finished with 5 fouls of her own, plus the technical. The entire Indiana roster was on a foul tightrope for the most of the second half, and not one of those accumulated fouls produced a trip to the free throw line for the Fever's best player. Now, let's just look at the raw numbers, because they don't need any commentary from anyone. New York Liberty: 40 free throw attempts, Indiana Fever, 15. Fouls called on Indiana, 27. Fouls called on New York, 19. Breanna Stewart: 21 free throw attempts, 18 makes, a career high. Caitlin Clark, the 93% shooter who plays downhill constantly, who draws contact for a living, who was actively attacked and fouled throughout the night, 0 free throw attempts. 0. You can argue any single call in an NBA or WNBA game. Officiating isn't perfect, it never has been, and fans on both sides are always going to find the calls that went against their team. That's not the conversation here. The conversation is a 25 attempt gap, a 25 attempt canyon between two rosters on the same court, in the same game, playing the same sport. Teams don't coach their way around a 25 attempt gap, they don't scheme around it or hustle around it. You cannot overcome a deficit that large at the line when the other team's offense is historically broken from the field and still walking out with the win, and the player who got nothing from the line wasn't a role player. Hiding in the corner. It was the most watched athlete in the sport, actively attacking the basket, drawing defenders all night, accumulating 5 fouls on the defensive end while never generating a single call on the offensive one. That's not a rough night at the stripe. That's the stripe not existing at all, and once you understand what tournament this happened in, the discomfort around that number gets a whole lot heavier. This wasn't random regular season Saturday in June, this was a Commissioner Cup game. The Commissioner Cup is an in-season tournament that the WNBA Commissioner Cathy Engelbert's office created in 2021. There's a $500,000 prize pool attached to it. There's a final on June 30th. This is Engelbert's event, her showcase, her vision for what the league can be, her name functionally attached to the trophy, and Indiana isn't a casual participant in this tournament. The Fever are the defending Commissioner Cup champions. They won Engelbert's trophy last summer, during the stretch when Clark was hurt, and that victory became the franchise's proof of concept that this team was real, beyond one superstar, that the future was built on something structural. So the defending champions, in the Commissioner's own tournament, with a final 3 weeks away, that's the stage Saturday night was set on. And now hold this alongside something Engelbert has said publicly, on the record, more than once. She has called Caitlin Clark the most popular athlete in America. She has directly credited Clark with bringing tens of millions of new viewers to the WNBA. Those aren't whispers, those are statements her office issued to the press. So sit with both of those facts at the same time. The player that the Commissioner built her entire growth story around played 40 minutes of the Commissioner's own signature tournament and was never once sent to the free throw line, and the morning after, Engelbert's office said nothing at all, not a review, not an acknowledgement, not a single word. The silence from the league office after that box score was its own kind of statement. Here's what makes the silence even harder to accept. This has happened before. May 24, 2025, Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Same Indiana Fever, same New York Liberty, same type of game with enormous stakes. The Fever lost 90-88 on a final play where Clark appeared to be stripped and no whistle came, and that night Fever head coach Stephanie White walked to the post-game podium and didn't soften a single word. She called what was happening to team pretty egregious. She pointed directly at a -31 free throw discrepancy across the previous stretch of games. She said Indiana wasn't settling for jumpers, they were attacking the rim, initiating contact, doing everything right, and getting nothing for it. She used the word disrespect, standing at a podium in front of cameras after a loss that stung. And she used the word disrespect. That was 13 months ago. Different roster pieces around Clark, different season, different standings, same opponent, same building, same pattern, and Saturday night, the gap was 40-15. Pull those two box scores up side by side, and something becomes unavoidable. The names change, the margin doesn't. One bad night in the officiated column is a data point. 2 separate seasons, same franchise, same games with this much on the line, same yawning gap at the stripe. That's a pattern, and patterns don't maintain themselves by accident. Someone in the league office is paid specifically to notice when a pattern like this forms around the league's most visible player in the league's most visible games. The officials answer to the league. The league answers to Engelbert. The chain of accountability is short, and it ends at one desk, which makes what happened at the post-game press conference Saturday night the strangest and most telling part of the entire night. 13 months ago, Stephanie White torched the officiating publicly. She named the pattern, she named the number. She used language strong enough that reporters were quoting her for days. That version of Stephanie White walked out of a loss and decided the truth was worth saying regardless of the cost. Saturday night in Brooklyn, she stood in front of cameras after watching a 40-15 free throw split in her own coach's box, looked at the reporters waiting for a reaction, and talked about rotations. Indiana's rotations, the gaps her team left on defense, the technical Boston picked up at the end, the turnovers. She found every part of the box score that pointed inward. And she spoke only about those. The free throw split, the most visible, most discussed, most statistically damning number from the game, went unaddressed. Clark held the same line, no criticism of officiation, nothing that would give the league office a quote to read on Sunday morning.